What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to another Saturday. Obviously, if you're seeing us live right now, it is a Saturday morning. It means it's your weekend, hopefully, and you're not working. But if you are, maybe you're listening in. I'm Andy, host of Cafe BTW, a gaming morning podcast on our 102nd stream episode. That is right. I didn't even realize that I missed my 100th mark, but we are on the 102nd episode. And I do, as you see below, have a wonderful guest joining me today, and that's Patrick from the Retro Blast podcast. What is up, Patrick? Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, how you doing? How's everything this morning? You know, you feel alive? Are you off work today? All that jazz? You
I
feeling
am
good?
off work. I'm a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 guy. So I am off today, and I plan on doing not a whole lot.
All
So
right.
yeah.
I love it. You know, that is important. You know, a lot of people, you're on the East Coast, so getting on this show
Yep.
isn't too bad for you. But
No.
when I make West Coasters get up at 8 a.m., they're not too happy with me. But that's okay. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a morning podcast because the East Coast still is in the morning right now, you know, so we're hitting both
That's
coasts.
right. That's right.
We got this.
Technically.
That said, Patrick, really appreciate it. I want to let everyone know what our topic is today. You know, the topic is something that I think Patrick and I love, and we had a good conversation on your podcast, sir, about Shenmue, which is very related to this. I have a title for this episode. It's Dreaming of the Past, a retro look back at the Sega Dreamcast.
I like that.
Do you like that?
I like that.
But before we get into that, you know what I'd like to do on my show, and before you get into your awesome podcast, I want to ask you about that, is let's go back in time, Patrick. Let's learn a little bit about what is a memory from your childhood that kicked off your love of video games? What is it that sparked it? Was it going to the mall with your parents, buying a game in an electronic boutique? What was it? Was it playing Super Mario Brothers 3? I don't know. You tell us.
That's a good question. That's a great question, actually. And I actually do have that memory for you because I was asked this question. I think it was on another podcast I was on a while ago.
There are no other podcasts, Patrick.
Right.
It's only
Sorry,
this
I
one.
forgot.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, so I can tell you pretty accurately so I was maybe, I can't get my age exactly right, but I want to say I was as young as probably 4. And my sister, one of my older sisters came to me and she said, "Hey, I want to show you something." And usually that meant, okay, she's going to do something to me. But she took me into the to like this little living room we had, and my parents had just bought an NES. And I was at that age. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about it.
You didn't know anything.
I didn't know anything. I knew how to eat and I knew how to complain.
Yeah.
So
simpler times.
Yeah, simpler times. And she showed me it came with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And she was like standing there and she grabbed the controller and she started up Mario Brothers, and I watched her use this little rectangle and move this little guy across the screen, and I was just absolutely fixated on the screen and I couldn't look away. And then she said, "Do you want to try?" She handed me the controller. I ran forward. I got killed by the first enemy, tried again, and jumped on him. And since then, I've loved video games.
That's it. There's always like a spark, I feel like.
That was it.
I love it.
It was like knowing that you could actually control something on a TV screen was just
mind-blowing
to me. Yeah.
Biff includes his little memory here. He says, "My favorite memory is the 128 bytes on the Atari 2600. And then Poseidon says, "Goomba for the win." That's a great story, Patrick. Now let's talk about. So obviously you're a gamer, you love video games. So tell us first of all, what is the Retro Blast podcast? How did you get to saying, I want to host a podcast about video games? But let's talk about the show in general. What can we learn from your show? And by the way, everyone, in chat, you'll see there's his Twitter and also a link to his Instagram, and you could find a link to his podcast as well through those socials. So check in chat. I'll share them on the VOD. Go ahead, Patrick. Tell us about Retro Blast.
Yeah, so really all it is the Retro Blast podcast is a show that's dedicated to a single game at a time. So really the idea being that myself and whoever my host is, I have a typical host who's a good friend of mine, Jay, who's on a lot of our episodes, but also Andy's been a guest.
Yeah, on this one right here, up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Retro Game Brews has been a guest.
Yep.
And he'll be on the 30th episode, actually. That's going to be exciting. But we really just talk about that game, and most of it comes down to our memories, and really just reminiscing, because my friends and I would sit and talk about games we used to play and how much we love them. And then one day we were like, why don't we just do this on a podcast? I'm going to just talk about games that we love. And so several years ago, actually, we had first started with a YouTube channel back in like 2014 or something like that. And that was a really tough nut to crack. So we backed off of that. And then later on, I just needed that creative outlet, so we got back into it. But really, that's what we do. We just talk about games. And we try to dedicate the episode to that game. We try not to really date them at all. So you can jump in on the first episode, the 10th, whatever, and it'll be relevant.
Very evergreen. Evergreen
so
is
you
the
get
word.
to kind of chill with us and listen, and just, if there's a game we talk about that you really love or you're curious about, you can just listen and just reminisce with us a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. And this is the episode I was on. And obviously I told you, like, whenever I do an episode and I'm invited on a show, I want to cross promote and have you on my show. So I thought doing a general episode about the Dreamcast, because we had a great episode. And by the way, everyone, I'm going to put this in chat. If you want to check out our awesome, I actually had a great time on this, Patrick. It was a fun retrospective.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Kind of like personal experience on this game, Shamu. And if you want to check it out, put it in chat as well. And I also, if you do !guest in chat, it'll pull up Patrick's Twitter and Instagram. So please check out Patrick's stuff. Also, if you're on VOD, check out the description and give it a listen. It's a very good podcast. You've been also someone I met in the wonderful Twitter retro gaming universe, the Twitterverse, where, I say that, like, probably some of my favorite people in the retro gaming world are on Twitter. As toxic as other sides of Twitter are, the retro gaming community is awesome.
It's those pockets, right?
Yeah. We're in a great pocket. So I believe I messaged you through Twitter way back. I mean, I think we go way back now.
Oh yeah, it's been years now.
Yeah,
a few years.
Patrick, before I get into our topic of today, I'm going to go do, I like to call it airing dirty laundry, and just talking about a few things about general stuff going on in the Love Retro Andy life. Basically, on Twitter, everyone, you might be familiar with it. I run the retro gaming Twitter community, and we curate this thing, meaning like someone tried to post some crowdfunding thing in it, and they're out of there. We're making sure that the retro gaming community, if you join it, it's curated to make sure that people are only sharing retro-related things, but you can promote your content. Just make sure you give context and make sure it has a retro gaming through line. Patrick, we are over, I think, almost at 2,200 members since we started. If you're interested and you haven't been part of it, check out my Twitter. It's in the pinned tweet. You could join. I'll accept you in as long as your account doesn't have weird things going on. Because I'll tell you what, you get people asking to join, and I look at their Twitter, and I'm like, what is this? Yeah. So, obviously, we have invite only because, Patrick, there's been, since Elon Musk took over the whole community thing, we used to have it public, and we were just getting slammed by like bots and stuff. So we curate it. And another thing I need to mention is I released this game, which if you've been on the show, you've played Muffins on Stream. And if we have enough people at the end of today's show, we are going to play Muffins on Stream. We now are live on Steam. It's an interactive video game developed by my company, Battery Cake. And I know a lot of people on the show have played this, so please check it out on Steam. It's available for, Patrick, $2.99. That's not too bad.
That's a hell of a price. That's a hell of a deal.
But Patrick, this is a big deal for me. We self-published a game, and we don't expect.
That's awesome.
We don't expect this to make us millions or anything. But they always say your first game doesn't make money, but maybe it's a stepping stone to bigger things. And we hope to turn.
You never know.
You never know. But the whole idea, and just so you know, is we want to turn this into a side-scrolling, animated-centric video game. So eventually, we're hoping to make it a platformer. But I do want to mention, any support goes a long way. If you're a streamer and you just want to play something with, fun with your audience that could be used for giveaways or an in-between game, Muffins on Stream is for you. It's also beautifully designed by our artist, Daniel Napoli, who's also my partner and is a wonderful animator, as you can tell. Patrick, I was just curious, what do you think of the way it looks?
I actually really like that kind of art style. I like a lot of games that have kind of like animated style, like I want to say like cartoon for everything, but like
it is cartoony.
Do you remember that game Alien Hominid?
I do, actually.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that, and like I like a lot of games that have that kind of like almost look like hand drawn or like animated style. So
Yeah, so anyway, don't want to, run down. If we have time, I do want to play it on the show live with everyone if we have enough people. And I do want to say a hello to Phantom Cat Punch. Good to see you again in chat, my friend.
That's a good username.
It's a great username. And then one of my old school friends, No Fear, who's been part of our chat for a very long time. What is up, No Fear? Good to see you in chat. Patrick, let's get into the topic called Dreaming of the Past. A retro look back at the Sega Dreamcast. So before, I always say this, Patrick, I am no way, shape, or form a historian, right? But I experienced the Dreamcast, and I want to say everything we talk through today is from research I've done. There's going to be a few things that I pulled up that hopefully will help give a little backstory to the history of the Dreamcast. But first, before we get into that, what is your connection with the Dreamcast, Patrick? It's definitely a part of your revolution in games, I would imagine, right? What's your kind of thought on that? Like, how did it affect you?
The Dreamcast?
The Dreamcast.
So I remember when it was announced, and I remember the whole like ad campaign, the 99.99 and all of that. That was a big,
which we'll get into.
Yeah, that I was very curious about it. I didn't really know much about it at the time because I had I think I've talked to you about this on the podcast, but we were like a one console house. We never had more than one, and I had a Nintendo 64. So we didn't have a PlayStation. We didn't have a Saturn. Most people that I knew did not have a Saturn. So
I was one of those rare Saturn owners.
Yeah, I knew kids that had like Sega CD and Genesis, but a lot of kids were buying the PlayStation and the N64. Like that, those two were really. If you knew a kid in the neighborhood or at school, that's typically what they had. I can't think of one kid that I knew that had a Saturn, which is unfortunate. But so I really kind of missed out on a long period there of Sega products and Sega games. Like we didn't really get to see a lot of that. So when the Dreamcast was announced and I saw like images in magazines and commercials for like Sonic Adventure, I was like, whoa, like this is going to be something. Like this is going to be really cool. And it was such a leap forward, from, I always tell people as well, like you look at the change from like Super Nintendo and Genesis to like PlayStation and Saturn, and you got the polygons and all that, but the leap from those consoles to Dreamcast in the era that we got with PS2 and GameCube, etc., like was a massive jump. And Dreamcast started that whole thing off, and you could tell right out of the gate that like we just hadn't seen anything like that before, graphics wise.
Yeah, and this is honestly the first time I think I bought a console with my own money. I was working at a store called Compact Disc World in North New Jersey.
Okay.
Compact Disc World was awesome. It was like a chain in New Jersey. There was about 8 stores. We didn't sell video games, but, I was, selling music as a teenager. It was really fun. And I saved up my money, pre-ordered it like 6 months in advance, and just remember the experience on $99.99. Like literally, I could actually remember being in the shop. And I wanted to shout out Shibby, welcome to the cafe, BTW, first time chatter. Really appreciate it. But this, Patrick, do you know what this is? This is the actual press conference on May 21st.
I think I've seen this. Yeah.
In 1998, where they officially announced in Tokyo. It was a conference that showcased the console's unique features and capabilities, such as its online capabilities and the VMU memory card, and generated significant hype. And right there, where you saw the logo pop up, is literally the first time that people were introduced to the name Dreamcast and the logo Dreamcast. And remember, a year later, or a little bit, about a year and 2 months later, it came out in America. So it wasn't that, there was always these big windows between release in Japan and the US. A year isn't too bad of a stretch, but this was literally the first press conference. I always appreciate the Japanese culture. They're all in suits. They're all professional. Very, but as you can see, they're showing off the Dreamcast. And thinking about 1999, what a great year going into the millennium and a new console coming to life. So this is a really important part of video game history. Do you know who this gentleman is?
On glance, no.
This is Hideki Sato, and I might be butchering his names, but very important because Hideki Sato is best known for leading the development charge around the Dreamcast. And I wanted to bring him up because maybe a lot of people don't know a lot of times people know all these machines, but they don't really realize who are the important figures that actually started. So who is this guy? Well, let's do a little bit of a history with him. And I'm going to pull up a little press conference so you can get him on video a little bit more. But this gentleman is a very, very important guy in the Sega history because he's best known for not only helping the development of the Dreamcast, but he's best known for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Phantasy Star 4. He's also a part of development around Nights into Dreams, which is probably one of the greatest Saturn games ever made. So obviously already I'm spewing out some games that are very important in Sega's history. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, amazing game. Any feelings around this game and what's
yeah.
You must have a lot of memories. Did you ever play the Phantasy Star 4 or Phantasy Star series at all?
I had so my next door neighbor had a Genesis. And another friend of mine who actually lived like through the woods, one of those friends where I'd walk through the woods to get to his house. He had one. And because we had a Super Nintendo. So I didn't get to play Genesis games unless I was at their house. And he got Sonic 2. And I was so excited because my first experience with Sonic the Hedgehog was at his house where I played it and I fell in love with it. And seeing Sonic 2 and seeing that we could actually play together, as Sonic and Tails and just the music and the colors. I was so hyped for this game and absolutely adore it.
Yeah. And he, this is, and basically what I'm trying to show you is that, Nintendo has all these amazing developers like that are well known. But I think it's important to remember that Sega was very important. And obviously these games this guy was a part of were very important. Nights in the Dreams, which Will in chat asked, was Nights in the Dream the first exclusive for Saturn? You know what? Funny enough, I should know this, but I know it definitely was an exclusive. And Patrick, Nights in the Dream was created by the Sonic team. So Sonic Team developed Nights in the Dreams, and also this game, which I don't know if you've ever heard of, but Burning Rangers was also a well-developed game by Sonic Team, and also Sato was a part of this as well. If you've never played this game, it is super good. It's a Saturn game that was fantastic. Right now, if you want to buy it, it's about $900, which is a real shame.
Good. Yeah, it's
which is a real shame because it's so fantastic.
Yeah. And didn't the Knights controller, the 3D controller that came with it, was like the precursor to the Dreamcast controller?
It was.
And the template they used, basically.
And it also was, and I don't know, there's always this argument about, was the Sega Saturn 3D controller released right before the N64 analog stick? So there's a lot of, those both controllers are like the first controllers to ever have the analog stick on them. Yeah. But they came out very close in proximity to their releases. So there's a lot of arguments there. Retro Game Brew says only $900. Only $900 for this amazing game. It's a shame. It really is a shame. They should do a remake. But let's talk about the specs, Patrick. I pulled up some stuff. The Dreamcast was a pretty machine. Did you like the aesthetics of it? I thought it was a really pretty machine.
It was such a departure from what Sega had done because they were big into like their image was the cool system, like the jet black and like trying to make all that, like the curves and the angles. That was like the whole point. And then all of a sudden we've got this like sleek, white, like nice looking console. Like I loved it. I thought it was a really, really great design. I still love it.
Yes, and Shibby in chat says, I didn't know the Dreamcast had 4 ports. It sure did, which made it really easy to have fun with multiple players on games. But let's talk about some numbers I don't understand, which is the CPU. CPU was called the Hitachi SH4 CPU at 200 megahertz. The graphics, which was very well known, it was called the Power VR2 with 3D rendering performance of 3 million polygons per second, which probably in 1999 was a big deal.
It was.
The sound card was actually processed and created by Yamaha, and it was a 64 channel and 44.1 gigahertz 16-bit stereo output. The built-in memory, Patrick, was 16 megabytes with 16 megabytes main RAM, 8 megabytes video RAM, and 2 megabytes sound RAM.
Man.
The media was a GD-ROM drive that could hold up to 1 gigabyte of data per disc and also supported CD-ROM discs, but did not, Patrick, support DVDs.
We should talk about. We're going to talk about that.
We will be. I have it all set, but we're talking about Before the failure. Well, let's talk about the success.
Before the failure.
And then display resolution for the Dreamcast was 640 by 480 with supports for both interlaced and progressive scan, input output, AV output, S video output, and VGA output. And then the operating system was custom version of Windows CE. So Microsoft had a little bit of play in the original Dreamcast. They actually provided the operating system for the Dreamcast, which a lot of people don't realize.
That's true.
Next, moving on, we could take a nice look at it, and we were talking about the aesthetics. I thought it was, first of all, not very heavy. It was really cool design.
Yes.
Let's see if we can get it.
Really sleek design, actually, very minimalist.
There we go. There's a good look. And then the controller, obviously, which we'll talk about in a second. Let me see. A lot of people in chat are talking. It must be Dreamcast brings up a lot of memories. So RGB, let's see. Phantom says, I miss the VMU. Such an innovative concept for the memory unit.
Oh, me too. I love the VMU.
Shibby says, kind of looks like the N64, but with a disk drive instead of a cartridge drive. That's an interesting take. Retro Game Bruce says, I have the black Sega Sports Edition, which was really cool.
Those are cool.
Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think I do have this. And we're going to play this quickly. So, Patrick, this is a launch video on the news about the Sega Dreamcast. So I'm just going to play this for everyone real quick.
It's round one, and Sega is flexing its newfound muscles with its brand new game system called Dreamcast.
This is the first time I ever played it.
First time for Matt Mignogno, because this is the first day it went on sale.
I expect it to do really well.
Ooh,
sales that are expected to bring in $45 million, and that's just today. Dreamcast will bring in more in one day.
I have that exact box.
Than even the hit movie Star Wars The Phantom Menace made on its opening day. What does Sega's Dreamcast have that Sony's PlayStation and Nintendo's 64 don't?
It's actually a system that can go interactive. You can plug it into your phone line.
For the first time, a video game.
All right, just wanted to show, because there was fun. I love the news reports. Obviously, you've probably seen in my content. I like to show it, but it was 1999. It was an exciting time for a new Sega system, and this is shots from 1999 in America on the internet that I found. Look at this. Look at those Dreamcasts behind this guy. This guy is look at the stack of games behind him. It's so awesome.
That's what it looked like in the stock room at the Funko Land I worked at.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's like that.
Oh, did you work at Funko Land?
I did.
No
right
way.
When it was I started at Funko Land and it transitioned into GameStop while I was there.
Wow.
2002.
That's awesome, man. I'm a big fan of Funko Land. We had it where I grew up.
Yeah.
Before we get into the games and also want to talk quickly about the internet connectivity, we should talk about the VMU. We could talk about the controller for days and stuff, but I feel like let's focus more on the VMU right now. What did you think of the VMU? And I do have some stats here, but let's talk about what I think of it. What do you think of it?
So the VMU was actually the first physical piece of a Dreamcast I ever saw, because when it came out, there was a kid in my class. I think I was in 10th grade. And there was a senior in my class who was really excited about the Dreamcast. He got it, and he brought in his VMU into our math class. And he was like passing it around. And he showed it to me, and he was like, yeah. And I turned it on. You could see because I think, if memory serves, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, there were like certain games where if you had the save file on there, you could play like little games on them.
Yes, right. it was its own little video game system. Never played
them much, but
the problem was
awesome.
The batteries died a lot. So you see, whenever you connected the VMU to the controller, it automatically powered it, right?
Yeah, the system powers it, but
once you pull it out, if your battery dies, you can't really play it. But you could also connect two VMUs together and send memory from one VMU to the other, which was super cool. Yeah. I'm going to read some facts I pulled up about the VMU just to give some more technical facts. So the VMU was a unique accessory with the Dreamcast because it combined a memory card with a small LCD screen. This allowed players to play mini games, access additional content, and go wherever they want. Go to a friend's house, take their VMU, and get their memory pulled up from another place. In addition to being a memory card, the VMU was also used in the Dreamcast games to display information and status updates. Several games were developed exclusively for the VMU, including Sonic Adventure 2 and Choo Choo Rocket. The VMU was originally called the VMS, the Virtual Memory System, in Japan, but was renamed the VMU for the North American release. Overall, the VMU has been beloved and innovative part of the Dreamcast ecosystem, offering a more immersive gaming experience and additional gameplay features. I'm going to give you one note and why it was cool. So NFL 2K came out, and do you ever play like a football game with a friend in person and you could kind of still see the plays they're picking? Well, what was cool about the VMU is we could each pick our plays on the VMU, and you wouldn't see anything on the screen. So when you were playing someone in football, I could pick plays and they had no idea what I was calling. And it was all because the VMU allowed you to pick the plays. Although you couldn't see the routes, you could see run play, whatever they were called, and pick them. And that was a really innovative way to play. So we, obviously we can't talk about the Dreamcast without mentioning that. Now, go ahead, Patrick. You have any other anecdotes to that?
I'll just say, the VMU, is absolutely an important part of the identity of the Dreamcast. And I would say too, I know not everybody is hot on the controller, but I love
I like it. I
love it. And at the time, it was innovative, and it was weird at first, kind of like the N64 controller. But I would say that arguably the Dreamcast controller holds up better over time and is easier to pick up and use because it so closely resembles the controllers that we have now.
Absolutely. Retro Gamer says, finally a system that came with a first-party options for connecting to the internet. Prior to that, you had to buy the X-Band. And we'll get into that in a second here. This is a commercial from the It's Thinking campaign, which I thought was really cool. And I want to talk about the marketing promotion. Now, It's Thinking tagline was developed by the advertising agency Foot, Cone, and Belding, and was intended to convey the Dreamcast's cutting-edge technology and forward-thinking design. The Dreamcast It's Thinking commercials were notable for their surreal, abstract imagery, which often included bizarre animations during their commercial runs. The campaign was particularly successful in the United States, where it helped to create buzz around the console and generate excitement around gamers. Despite its popularity, the It's Thinking campaign was short-lived and was discontinued in 2001. What are your memories of the It's Thinking campaign and the commercials that you're seeing?
It was on TV all the time. I remember seeing this commercial. I remember seeing those advertisements.
Gary Payton.
Constantly. Yeah, constantly. They were on. It really was an aggressive ad campaign.
It was. Sega was always so good at it in the 90s, and especially right now on the cusp of the 2000s. This was really fun. I think that was Randy Moss was actually in this commercial. His voice, really cool. I still think that the slogan is really fun, and a lot of people always remember the It's Thinking campaign if you played the Dreamcast. All right, so Patrick, we've gotten so I've caught everyone up. If you've never heard of a Dreamcast before, you probably get an idea of what the hell this thing is, right? Let's talk about the games. Now, we did a podcast about Shenmue. I think that this is probably the best first game to talk about. Now, I did pull up something. I pulled up a quiz question on every game you told me to pull up that affected you, okay? It's going to start from easy to hardest, okay? God. Before we go into what Shenmue is all about, here's the first question, which is super easy, I think. In Shenmue, what is the name?
Don't say that, because if I don't know it, I'm going to look stupid.
In Shenmue, what is the name of the main character who is seeking revenge for his death of his father?
Ryo Hazuki.
Ryo, is that how we pronounce it?
But the way it's pronounced is Dio.
Yes.
I'm being a nerd right now.
He's even being
Ryo. I know. I'm being a nerd.
I love it.
I apologize. But it's Ryo. Yeah, Ryo. Ryo Hazuki.
Now, you can go over to Patrick's podcast and check out the Shenmue podcast with me on it. We really go into depth about it. But
that was a fun conversation. We had a good talk about that.
That was a great episode. But let's talk about it a little bit here. How much did this game impact you? And how important was it for the Dreamcast in general?
Oh, man. It hugely. And again, I do encourage, sorry for the shameless self-promotion, but I do encourage you to listen to that episode.
I'm going to add it to chat. Don't you worry.
Yeah, because I think that Andy and I both had an incredible amount of love for this game, and for our own reasons. And we kind of dipped into not just the game itself, but just why we love it. And I think you can feel that on that episode. I really do.
Yeah, we really put our feeling into it.
Yeah,
I feel like
I had a moment there where I was like reminiscent. I was walking down memory lane, and it was just like I was there. But yeah, this game is incredibly important to me. This game, as I mentioned a little bit on the episode, was the kind of game that was so far ahead of its time and innovated so much. People can go back and forth all day on whether or not it's aged well. That doesn't matter. This game at the time was enormous, and it was so important to the industry, and it was so important to gaming. And for me personally, it came in a time in my life where we talk about escapism. A lot of people play video games for escapism. Yep. Shenmue was a different kind of escapism for me, where I could sit down and play it and feel like I was actually in another place that I couldn't go to, right? I couldn't afford to go anywhere. I couldn't afford to travel. I always wanted to go to Japan. Well, guess what? I could walk through the streets of a little town and feel like I was in this place and experience another culture. That had not been really done to that effect that gave you that feeling, right? Because there had been games that had a little bit of an open world concept or whatever, but Shenmue really dropped you in and let you experience something that really you hadn't been able to experience before, especially for me. And so that game is always going to hold a very special place in my heart.
Yes, and just go back. Hey, Mikey, what's up? Welcome to the chat. He said the controller was okay, but when playing fighting games, which Dreamcast had many, I preferred third-party controllers from Retro Fighters. Well, Retro Fighters wasn't around in 1999.
Yeah.
So there were third-party controllers, but I do agree, Retro Fighters does make a very cool Dreamcast controller.
I have theirs for the N64. That's a good one, too.
Absolutely. So, yeah, obviously we can go down this road, but I did share in chat. If you want to check out a little bit of a deeper dive with both me and Patrick, check out his episode, which I shared in chat. And also I shared Patrick's link. So if you just joined us, check out a lot of the Retro Blast podcast stuff. And yes, very impactful for me. Next game on the list, which is super important, is of course Sonic Adventure. Patrick, ready for the quiz questions to kick it off? Again, easy to hard.
Yeah.
In Sonic Adventure, what is the name of the main antagonist who's trying to steal the Chaos Emeralds?
In the first Sonic Adventure?
In the first Sonic Adventure.
Why do I feel like this is a trick question? I know what he looks like. It's the oh God.
It's easier than you think.
Well, Robotnik.
Yes, Dr. Eggman.
Oh, but
yes.
I'm thinking of the other. Okay,
you're thinking of the other guy. Yeah. But yes. So
Robotnik. Eggman.
So I'm going to tell a quick story on this game. So when the Dreamcast came out, there was actually a problem with the Sonic Adventure discs for a lot of them where they wouldn't load past the Dreamcast screen. So when I got my Dreamcast in 1999, I bought Sonic Adventure and NFL 2K with it. And I went home and I popped in Sonic Adventure and it just wouldn't load. And I called Electronic Boutique where I bought it. And I said, hey guys, this game's not loaded. They bring it back in. So I went back, got another Sonic Adventure, and then loaded it in, and guess what? It didn't work. Then for a third time, I went back to Electronic Boutique, and I did it again, and again it didn't load. So apparently there was actually a recall on a lot of the Sonic Adventures, and it wasn't until I went to the Toys R Us and got their Sonic Adventure, and I happened to get a copy that didn't have the issue in it. So I experienced this.
I did not know about that.
When a new video game launches, especially a console, you want to play it. I was so pissed off I could not play Sonic Adventure, but eventually
the one game that most people wanted to play when it launched.
Yeah, so there was a defect in some of the release CDs where it wouldn't load past the loading screen, and I unfortunately experienced it by returning it 4 times in like 2 days. But eventually, Patrick, I was able to play it, but you can imagine back then how pissed off I was.
I would have been too. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it was rough. But that said, what are your thoughts of this game and any memories on it?
Sonic Adventure. I mean, yeah, I played the hell out of this game. This is one I prefer it to Sonic Adventure 2, not because of the gameplay or anything. I know Sonic Adventure 2 is probably a better game, right? But this one I have a lot of memories with. And a lot of times, I wouldn't say a game is objectively better because I like it more. I would say it's because of my nostalgia for it. And I'd say that this one, putting Sonic into 3D space was a challenge in and of itself, but I think they pulled it off very well.
It's a great game, yeah.
I mean, I remember that first zone where you're running over the bridge and the killer whales behind you, and just the way they showcase that, it just made me want to play that game so badly. And I played through with every character, even Big the Cat. And it's it's another
one of the
game.
best Sonic games that wasn't on the Genesis.
I would agree. I still love it. I mean, I know that it hasn't aged well in some ways either, but it's still something I really, really love.
Well, we got to appreciate these games, and it was the first Sonic on, I believe it was because Sonic really didn't come on the Saturn. So this is really the first. Well, there were Sonic games that were developed and ported to the Saturn, but there was no game developed like, hey, this game is for you, Sonic. And it was, Sonic Adventure was made for the Dreamcast, and it was fantastic.
It was a technical showcase for it, pretty much.
Now, next game we have pulled up here is an excellent game, Power Stone. Very easy question for you. Power Stone is a fighting game.
You gotta stop saying easy question.
I know.
I feel like you're gonna say that and you're gonna give me something I'm not gonna remember and be like, oh God, just. No,
I don't usually do this, but I decided to change it up.
I'm kidding. Go right ahead.
Power Stone is a fighting game that allows up to how many players to battle each other at once?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Power Stone is a fighting game that allows up to how many players to battle each other at once? Four,
right?
Just like four, which was kind of like, Power Stone in its own right is a sort of, I don't want to say it's a Smash Brothers game, but it's got its own unique kind of layout.
Super unique.
It's super. Oh, Phantom, thank you for the bits. Mikey Love Retro says, I can't talk about the Dreamcast without mentioning how easy it was to pirate games.
Yeah, we should talk about that too.
It was easy to pirate games, but I'm going to talk more about, the general games that you pulled up. So let's talk about Power Stone.
Yeah.
What did you think of this game?
This was another one that actually my co-host Jay, who's on, again, a majority of my episodes, he had a Dreamcast before I did. And he had like this garage in his house that was converted into like a rec room. And I went over there after school one day. I drove over to his house and he was playing Soul Calibur was the first game he was playing. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
But he also had Power Stone. And so we played Power Stone and had a blast. Like it is so much fun. And this was kind of like, I had played Smash Brothers and stuff like that, on N64, but then this has its own unique little style and it felt like that, where you could run around and just kind of like battle it out, pick up stuff, throw it at each other in a 3D space. And I just thought it was so much fun.
It's really fun and it's so well developed and just like you could play this for hours. And like I said, it's kind of like a Dreamcast Smash Brothers in a sense.
Yeah, kind of.
In a different way. And I really think they should make a new Power Stone. That would be really neat.
I would love to see Power Stone come back because just make it like a $20, $30 online game. Throw it on the marketplace, like Xbox, PS5, whatever. Throw it on the marketplace and just let people play online.
Now, Patrick, when I was in college, it was the year 2000. So my college dorm console was a Dreamcast, which is really cool. And the game that I played constantly in my dorm room, and I will say this, I was in college, smoking pot, drinking beers in my dorm room. And in my dorm room, me and my roommate.
I was just eating Hot Pockets, man.
Hey, we were eating. That's in 2000s when Easy Mac started coming out, so it was a big deal.
Hot Pockets,
it was a big
pizza
deal.
Rolls.
That said, I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater on my Dreamcast, probably like for hours on end.
Yeah.
Here's a quiz question. Ready?
Yeah.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater was developed by which video game company?
Treyarch.
No.
Neversoft.
Yes.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
Treyarch was involved, weren't they?
Yeah, but they might have been the publisher. I don't know. The answer I got was Neversoft.
I thought they co-developed.
They could have. I could be wrong here, but I mean, you got the answer right.
Neversoft.
Andy was inhaling the devil's lettuce, Retro Game Brew says. That's right, Retro Gamers. I also live in Southern California, so, do the math anyway. Yeah, it's legal here, okay? But I was going to school in Boston, though, at the time, and it was my school I was going to was very hippy-dippy, so it was okay.
Devil's lettuce.
So, Tony Hawk on the Dreamcast, what'd you think of it?
Again, and Tony Hawk, so I didn't play it on PlayStation. Jay had this game, too. And we played this all the time. It is such a good version of the game to play.
It really is.
It is still, and I know that a lot of people love Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. That's a really good one, but this is still my favorite. I love this game and adore it. The music, I get so much from the menu music, the Goldfinger song, like all of the stuff. The soundtrack is so good.
Love Goldfinger,
and it's
by
just,
the way.
Again, it ties me back to a memory and like a time in my life when things were different, and it's just the nostalgia factor for me is, again, another reason I love this game, but it still plays so well, I think.
Yes, and where people didn't like the controller, I don't know. I really enjoyed the controller with Tony Hawk. I had no problem with it.
Yeah, it worked great.
I feel like the left and right, our left sticks were in a good place for you and it was really great for this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool that I skew a little older, I guess, but it's really cool that like I still have fond memories of being in college.
Yeah,
playing.
I'm only a couple years behind you because I was playing this. I was playing this in like 10th grade.
Okay.
So 2000, I was in 10th grade. So
let's
10th
grade. So I was, so I was a couple of years ahead of you.
Yeah.
No worries. I'm not that old, Patrick. Is that what you're saying?
Old man.
I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Here's another great game, The Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. Ready for the quiz question? I won't say the level of difficulty anymore. What is the name of the main character who is a vampire seeking revenge against his former master?
Raziel.
Raziel is correct. So here's a game that, honestly, Patrick, I didn't play too much. I don't think I owned it. So I'd love to hear.
This was on my list. This is not one that was on your list, I guess.
Not one that was on my list. I know I do own it, but I owned it. I bought it later on in life. Tell us a little bit about this game.
Yeah, this was one of the first games that I actually bought with my own money. I was on a trip. I was on a school trip, and I was that kid that would take my consoles whenever we had like a class trip or school trip. We had a hotel. I was that kid that brought my console every time, and I would hook it up in the hotel room. So we were on a trip, and I bought this game at like I think it was a mall video game store, and I had been interested in it because I'd never played a Legacy of Kain game, but I thought the concept of being this guy who has a giant gaping maw that sucks in people's souls sounded really cool. And so I got it, and I started playing it, and I loved it. I mean, like the opening cinematic is still really compelling, and it makes you kind of get involved in that world. The gameplay still holds up, and it's got that kind of like grim gothic kind of atmosphere to it. Raziel's a great character. You really kind of like the opening movie gets you involved and makes you really want to go after Kain and get revenge and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fantastic game.
That's awesome. I do need to play this. I do have a copy, and I've been meaning to play it. I have so many games on my backlog.
Yeah, it's worth playing.
Yeah, I do have my Dreamcast, so this is one to go back to. I do want to go back to a comment. Mikey Loveretcha says, also the Dreamcast was one of the loudest systems to play games on. It was.
Yeah.
I will
it's like a jet engine.
I will argue that probably the one system that was the loudest was the PS4. After a while, the PS4 sounded like an aircraft carrier. Like, it was so loud. But yes, the Dreamcast definitely has this iconic loud, like you hear the spinning and everything.
But I love the clicking of the disc and everything. Like, I love that. It's part of the reason I love the Dreamcast.
And Biff Bluffington says, Andy will be sideways at the Asprey ski. And if you know what Asprey ski means, in Canada, because Biff's Canadian, after you go skiing, you Asprey ski, and that means you grab a drink after you go skiing and have a drink. It's a Canadian thing. So just so everyone knows. All right, moving right along. One of the greatest openings in video game history, in my opinion, is the Code Veronica, one of my favorite Dreamcast games.
Yes.
One of my favorite Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
This game scared the crap out of me back in the day. I remember.
Great game.
All right, quiz question.
Oof.
In Resident Evil Code Veronica, what is the name of the prison on Rockfort Island where the game begins? What is
hit me with one that I can't remember off the top of my head.
And if chat knows, if you know in chat,
let chat answer this one. I actually should know this.
In Resident Evil Code Veronica,
the name of the prison.
What is the name of the prison of Rockfort Island where the game begins?
I should know this.
I don't know if anyone knows.
Someone might.
This is really easy, by the way. It's easier than you guys think.
Okay, we talked about this.
Okay.
Don't say it's easy, Andy.
Okay, it's not easy.
I'm kidding.
All right. I'm just going to give the answer away. It's Ashford Prison.
Ashford Prison. Well, because Okay, I'm thinking of. All right.
So,
damn it.
A really great Resident Evil game. Just so good. I'm not a big, and Patrick, I'm not a big, I think you are. I think you're a big Resident Evil fan.
Oh, yeah.
I personally wasn't like a huge Resident Evil person. I played the games here and there, but I think that this is the one game that really sucked me in, and I could look back on and say I put a lot of love into this game.
What was it about this one that hooked you, you think?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure, because I wasn't really a big Resident Evil fan, but I think I gave it a go on the Dreamcast, and I said, I really like this. And I just remember being scared at moments. I like the female protagonist. I don't remember her name.
Claire Redfield, yeah.
I think it's really cool. And I thinking about it now, I really just have to give some more love to Resident Evil games, but it's just one of the games I played.
You come to me anytime you want to talk about Resident Evil.
So what is it about Code Veronica where it sits in all the games that have come out in Resident Evil? How would you compare it?
So obviously I really, really love Resident Evil. I had played Resident Evil 2, I had that on my N64, actually. That was the first time I got to play one. And I had played Resident Evil 3 at a friend's house. So I'd played, some of the originals, and I was really a fan of those. And I love the backgrounds and the play controls. It's just what we had then. Code Veronica was another game where it was another massive leap. If you go and play Resident Evil 1, 2, or 3, and then you go and play Code Veronica, look at the graphical leap between those games. And look at the way that, when you move around in the original games, you had stock backgrounds pre-rendered, which are beautiful, and I love them. But they would change as you moved. Well, in Code Veronica, a lot of those backgrounds, you actually had scrolling backgrounds. So you would move and the environment would move with you. So instead of it being a, static camera in a lot of areas, you now had a camera that was moving with you in a lot of ways. So that was like a new thing for the series. And I really enjoyed the storytelling. It's got a great villain who's over the top. That's where Resident Evil started to kind of like get hints of just ridiculous, like over the top villains, which I really like. And it also brought back my favorite Resident Evil character, who is Albert Wesker.
Ooh.
So yeah, I'm a Wesker fanboy.
Yeah, you're a big Resident Evil guy. I know that from your tweets. I've seen a lot of your love for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Code Veronica is definitely like in a top 10 of best games.
Yeah.
All right.
And I do hope that it gets a remake at some point. I really do. I'd love to see it come back.
I think it would be cool to see a remaster or a remake.
A remaster too, yeah. Well, there's an HD remaster I think that's available now. But
how about this one, Soul Calibur?
Okay, yeah.
Let's do a little quiz question here. This I'm not gonna say it if it's easier, right?
You were about to.
I know. I was just about to. What is the name of the weapon wielded by the character Nightmare in Soul Calibur?
By Nightmare, it's the Soul Edge.
Yes, Patrick. Yeah. You would win if I had prizes. You would have won something.
Yeah,
but we don't. Sorry, Patrick. Just the prize. Of winning.
Right. You want to say you can just send me some of that devil's lettuce.
So, what did you think of this for a fighting game on the Dreamcast? Fantastic animations, beautiful.
Yeah, that's why I tried to pick these bangers because there's something to say about each one. This is another one that Jay also had. And actually, if memory serves, the first time that I saw the Dreamcast at his house, if I'm remembering now, was Soul Calibur, because this game here, we did an episode on it. Jay and I think it was 1 or 2 episodes before the one you and I did. Soul Calibur was the game. Not only is it a more graphically impressive and better version than the arcade version, right? But that's the kicker, is that the Dreamcast was showing graphics and that we just didn't have on home consoles. This was the game that I looked at on his TV and said, are you kidding me? Like, how in the world? Like, we finally caught up to the arcades. We finally have games that look as good as the arcades, and it looked better. And that's true. If you look up screenshots of the arcade version of this game and the Dreamcast version is much better. The graphics are better. It's smoother. Colors are better. Everything. So this was a heavy hitter, and it blew my mind when I saw it on a home console.
One thing that you should note, and most people should note, is that Sega was in the arcade business. They were so good at porting their own arcade games to their consoles, and I think that Sega doesn't get enough credit. Now, Nintendo,
it's in their name.
It's in their
games.
And by the way, and it's sad, but Sega owned arcades up to just as recent as a year and a half ago, where they they actually sold all their Sega arcades in Arcahabra recently to a company called Gigi or Gigi. Unfortunately, Sega doesn't own them anymore, but the Sega arcades are still in Tokyo and other parts of Japan. But they sold unfortunately, Sega. But it's crazy to know that Sega owned arcades up to just a year or so ago. And they were so good at porting. So Soul Calibur, fantastic game. Can't go without mentioning. And then one that I haven't played, but I definitely had Die Hard Arcade. And I just gave up the quiz question because the quiz question was, what game is Dynamite Cop a spinoff of? And it's obviously Die Hard Arcade.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. I mean, Die Hard Arcade, it was fun. What did you think of Dynamite Cop on the Dreamcast?
Yeah, so I know this is kind of a weird one to put on my list. I'm hoping that somebody in the chat or maybe, I mean, a lot of people don't bring it up. And it actually reviewed not very well when it came out, which whatever. But it is so much fun. It is an arcade game, first and foremost. It is a game where it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is bonkers off the wall. But you can this is the kind of game, the reason I chose this is because this is the kind of game that if you're watching TV or, I've got like a Retroid Pocket that I play a lot and I play some Dreamcast games on that. But if you're doing something else, if you just want to jump into a game and have a good time and get out, this is the perfect game to do that. It's so easy to pick up and play. Everybody knows how to pick up and play beat 'em up.
Yeah.
And this is one of the best you can play on the Dreamcast.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. It's so insane though. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but like there are moments like you can see right here.
You see that guy?
Looks like with a turtle shell.
It looks like a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, there's a lot of enemies that are just ridiculous. And like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but if you have never played this on Dreamcast, find a way to play it and just jump in and you will laugh. I promise you, because it's a great time. It's a great time.
That's one I need to repurchase.
So much fun. Yeah, if you like Die Hard Arcade, you're gonna love it.
And from what you see on screen, what game is this, my friend?
Ikaruga.
Tell me about Ikaruga. I'm not a big what do they call these games?
Shoot 'em ups.
But let's see if I have a quiz question.
Well, I won't be able to answer that, but you can try. Why don't we ask the chat?
Well, I'll actually, this might be too hard, but what I'm going to say is the player ship can switch between black and white, absorbing bullets of the same color and dealing extra damage to enemies of the opposite color.
Correct.
So it had a unique mechanic. I don't think anyone would have got that right, but I'm not a big shoot 'em up guy. Not a big shoot 'em up guy. I'm not very good at them. They're fun in the arcade though. I do like playing them in the arcade.
Yes.
What is it about this shoot 'em up that brought you to bring it to us as one of your favorites?
This one is one that I played much later. I didn't play it on the original Dreamcast runs. Matter of fact, I don't think, and I could be wrong here, but I'm not sure how available it was back then. But it is. You can see from the video here, it's beautiful. Like, it is a gorgeous game. It's got incredible graphics. There was a lot of care and time put into it. One of the cool things with shoot 'em ups or shmups is that while the gameplay is very simple, it allows the developers and the artists to really go wild with what you're seeing on screen, right? Because it can be insane. Ikaruga really takes the shoot 'em up genre, and like you can see here, the 3D moving around kind of reminded me of like Panzer Dragoon in a way, like the way that the environments would move. But the gameplay itself is so unique. It's simple, right? It's white and black. That's all you need to know going in. You need to, if your ship is white, you need to, play a certain way and then switch between white and black to make sure that you're absorbing damage and dealing damage that way. It's very challenging, but it's a lot of fun and it's rewarding. And it's not super long, so it's another game you can jump in and play. It is difficult.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of shoot 'em ups are very difficult. It takes
They are very difficult. Yes.
And they're games that you kind of master over time as you get used to them and you play them over and over and over again.
Right.
But I did play this and I wasn't very good at it.
It's hard. And even for me, like, and I've played it a lot and it'll still kick my ass. Like, it's challenging.
Now, a few games, I just want to pull up a few more just honorable mentions. Obviously, Crazy Taxi is in the conversation of one of the greatest Dreamcast games ever made. I will say this, just so people know, about a year before the game released on the Dreamcast, it was an arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
And in Las Vegas, they have the Pinball Hall of Fame, and they have a stand-up Crazy Taxi arcade game. If you happen to see it in the arcade.
I have played one recently.
Yep. So just so people know, Crazy Taxi was an arcade port, technically. Mm-hmm. But damn was it good on the Dreamcast, and hours of fun. I mean, we can dive deep and you could probably do a whole episode on Crazy Taxi, or maybe you can't because it's very like simple. It's not.
Just make some crazy money.
Offspring made some crazy money with residuals on their
yeah.
Sanity Crypto in chat. What's up, man? Good to see you, dude. He says UN Squadron is my favorite shoot 'em up.
UN Squadron's really good. That's on Super NES, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, Sanity. Pretty sure that's right, but that's a good one.
Another one we have to mention is Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio, whichever title you prefer. This is so in Jet Grind Radio, known as Jet Set Radio in Japan, was the name of the protagonist. What's the name of the protagonist who leads the gang of inline skaters in the fight against rival gangs and corrupt authorities?
Yeah, I remember Gum. That's the only name I remembered.
Beat.
Okay, there you go.
Goes with the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, Beat.
Another honorable mention game, and you can't talk about the Sega Dreamcast without mentioning that EA was not releasing games on the Dreamcast. So Sega said, screw EA, we'll make our own sport games. And these are sport games that still affect people today. The NFL 2K series
they were so good.
So good, and it went all the way up to the NFL 2K5, which is arguably one of the greatest football games ever made until EA got the license. We can go to NBA 2K as well, which is still around today in a sense. But I do want to mention the online capabilities. This is one of the early console games I ever played online. I connected to SegaNet and I played NFL 2K online through a dial-up. And that was kind of unique and fantastic, although it was kind of, the connection wasn't great because it was on dial-up. But
yeah, it was, yeah.
But I played this online, and look, we can't mention the sport games on Dreamcast, especially in the US, were really popular.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest drivers for the marketing campaign they did. They really pushed Sega, and there was also hockey as well. And then I want to get into the weird games we had, which I thought was unique, was Space Channel 5, which Sega actually said, Patrick, they're going to be coming out with a movie adaptation of Space Channel 5. Apparently, yes, that's what they said.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Mikey, we did mention Phantasy Star early in the game because the guy Hideki Sato, who helped develop this system, he also helped develop most of the Phantasy Star games, which also was online on the Dreamcast as well. Another game that is really great is Skies of Arcadia, which I don't know if you played Skies of Arcadia, have any connection to Skies of Arcadia.
I know very much about it. This is one that has been on my list for years. So many people have told me how good it is. It's one of those things where I need the time to be able to sit down and play it.
It's not cheap these days. It's not cheap.
No. There is a version of it on GameCube called Skies of Arcadia Legends, which a lot of people seem to like. It's got less random battles.
Oh, I heard about that.
But there's a couple ways, but they're both expensive, right? So, but I do plan on playing it. I think I did a post on Twitter a while ago, a Dreamcast related post, because I wanted to kind of get some ideas. And Skies of Arcadia was mentioned like more than 50%. Everybody loves that game.
And then what about this game, Seaman?
Yeah, Seaman. Oh my God. One of the most bizarre. I love this, right? But it's one of the most bizarre games that, and again, this is so Sega, like to do this. And to have that kind of that microphone attachment that came with it, and just they threw it on shelves and they were just like, yeah, people will buy this. No one's going to question it. They're going to walk into Blockbuster and see it and they'll be like, yeah, I want to talk to a creepy fish man. That's what I want to do.
And you had to take care of it. Like if you ignored your Dreamcast for a few days,
he would get upset.
He would get upset, or he could die.
And they would mate and stuff.
They would mate. It was really,
dude, it's like a horror film. Look how black the water is. They knew what they were doing. It's just creepy as shit.
It's one of the most bizarre games, but honestly,
it's so good.
I have the Seaman microphone still, and it's really great. Can't talk about it enough. Okay, so talked a lot about the games, Patrick. Every time I do a podcast, I put a topic into Twitter, so I want to read.
Okay.
I want to give the world a chance to tell us. I put out to the world, Patrick. I said the Dreamcast was a revolutionary console that introduced many of us to new genres and franchises. What impact did the Dreamcast have on your gaming experience? And I also asked chat if you'd like to join in, please do. Turbo Forces says the Dreamcast to me brought so much awesome games to some of the some of them were just like the arcades. I wish the Dreamcast came out a little earlier and didn't suffer more of the Sega arcade games had more of the Sega arcade games like Scud Race, Daytona USA 2, and Star Wars Trilogy Arcade would have been really cool on the console. James says, give me the greatest game ever created. He puts Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
We have Land of the 80s says, anyone remember playing this game in the arcade, which I don't think was relative. What is going on? Oh yeah. Did you play? Okay. That's not the Dreamcast.
That's PS2.
What is going on here?
People's memories get fuzzy sometimes. I get a lot of that on my timeline too. Where it's like, oh, I remember playing this. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
I didn't. I asked you specifically. Hey,
yeah.
This is weird. Is this what people wrote? Am I like seeing things?
I remember playing that Tomb Raider on NES. That was my favorite.
I am so confused. Am I on the right thing? Hold on.
I don't know. I've got it here too. No. I've got it too.
Wait a minute.
You might be. So now.
Oh, here we go. Sorry. I was looking at my main feed. That was so wrong. James says, firstly, it's the last console I ever pre-ordered. For obvious reason, it gave us so many arcade perfect ports along with so much innovation. Shenmue, Seaman, Jet Set Radio, and name a few. Roderick says, the Sega Dreamcast had a major impact on me as a gamer. I remember playing Soul Calibur for the first time and going through mission mode to beat every mission. Getting zoned out by playing Sonic Adventure and Shenmue. Love the VMU. All great takes and stuff we've talked about. Cecil says online play is such a fun feature. Cool Retro Gaming says, I just remember everything being sharper. I was running it alongside a PS1 and then into a PS2, and it just felt brighter and sharper. Never got into the VMU though. Hidden Machine says it was my gateway to the console gaming piracy, which Mikey Love Retro mentioned earlier. Paul says, yes, I never got into the Dreamcast, sadly. I think at that point I was firmly into the PlayStation. Fair enough. Rod says, seeing Crazy Taxi and Ready to Rumble, which we didn't talk about, boxing on my TV made me really feel like I was in the arcade. So a lot of callback. And look, Mikey's here. I do not have many games in my collection, so I only dug deep into the Dreamcast once I got a GDDMU. Today, really loved the fighting games. I hated the loud noise, which you mentioned. And then I'll read one more. Hero says, owning a Dreamcast made me appreciate weird, unique games, which we talked about as well. That said, before we go, and I do want to see if we can play our game here before we go. But Patrick, the downfall. What do you think the downfall was for the Dreamcast?
There's a lot of schools of thought on that. I think it is a combination of a few things. The easiest answer, obviously, was the fact that the PS2 was looming large, and it was coming out in 2000. It had, back then, DVD players were not cheap. The PlayStation 2 was coming with a DVD player on board, and that was when they were getting really popular. That's a big part of it. The piracy part, and I can say this 100%, because some people don't realize like how rampant that was too, because I'm outing us both, but Jay had gotten on a chat room. This is back when you had like AOL chats and stuff like that, chat rooms.
Okay.
He had met some guy in a chat room talking about Sega Dreamcast, and the guy was like, yeah, I burned these games. CD burners were like expensive back then too. This guy was burning games. Jay bought from him for like $50, bought like half the Dreamcast library. I have them here in my house. He gave them to me years ago. They're all the original copied games. You would pop the lid, you'd put in another game, come out, pop it in, and they all worked fine. Now, back then, we were in high school. We weren't really morally completely there when it came to that. We didn't think about that. We were just like, oh, we can get these games for cheap. We were high school students. We didn't have money, you know? So we were just like, if we can get them for this much. So looking back, yeah, I regret that. But it's one of those things that a lot of people were doing, and a lot of people were selling them online. And so it was absolutely a problem. And when you factor in the fact that the PS2 was on the way, and it came out before the Xbox or the GameCube, it was coming in 2000, people were hyped about the PS2. And the Dreamcast didn't have enough time, you know, not to mention there are a lot of games that look fantastic on the Dreamcast, right?
Sure.
But the PS2 had all around just better specs, and it had that DVD player, and it was such a big deal. So I think that, you know, that's a really pretty solid reason as to why they weren't able to do it. They didn't have enough time. And what someone said earlier about it coming out earlier, if if they hadn't flopped so hard with the Saturn, which this is not a comment on the Saturn's quality.
Yeah.
I love the Saturn.
Yep.
But the Saturn, the way they released the Saturn and the decisions that they made, which was mostly Sega of Japan's fault, not America.
It was, yeah.
Okay? Because we all know how well Sega of America did with the Genesis.
Yep.
But they flopped the Sega Saturn hard. And if they hadn't done that, if they had skipped, if they had just like run the Genesis out, made a few other decisions and taken the time to release the Saturn the way they should have, then the Dreamcast would have been a different story, because at that time, a lot of people had jumped on the PlayStation train because they did not go with the Saturn. So there's a few factors there, but I think those are probably the three largest.
I think that, Sega also was like, we want to make this a gaming machine, and they didn't want to put the DVD player on it. And the thing about the PS2 is it was one of the first times I ever noticed non-gamers buying a console.
Exactly. It was a cheap DVD player.
Just for the DVD player. It was the cheapest.
Way cheaper.
I think in the US, it was a cheaper version to get a DVD player in your home.
It was. DVD players were like anywhere from $500 to $1,000 back then.
So it just made sense to buy a place. People literally didn't play games on the PS2. They would just play DVDs. There were some people, non-gamers. So there was a downfall, but, looking at the modern retrospective on the Dreamcast, it's appreciated, it's loved, it's well respected this day and age. Unfortunately, during the time, it was just marketing hiccups. And maybe it would have been different if they protected against piracy. Maybe it would have been different if they had a DVD player. But that said,
the DVD discs themselves would have been a lot harder to pirate.
But that said,
copies of.
That said, Patrick, that is pretty much the gist of the episode. We went through a lot in a little.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Thinking back to not only our episode with Shamu, but just what we talked about today. You always love the Dreamcast. It's always going to be a part of your video game obsession and passion. Always.
I love it. We'll always love it.
Okay. Well, to end the show, everyone, we have our game, my game, that I developed called Muffins on Stream. If we have enough people, I would like to play 3 rounds, and the winner that has a total amount of points in 3 rounds will win a copy of Muffins on Stream. Now, all you have to do is put ! join in chat. So everyone that's in chat, if you could help me out, because we need players. If we don't get enough players, we got No Fear in.
I see a couple pop out.
I see Mikey. I see Tao. Let's get let's get some more people in.
Come on.
I know we got people watching, so put ! join in chat. All right.
If it's that easy to join, then
it really is that easy.
They could just jump in.
So we got 5. All right. If you're lurking, don't be shy. Put ! join in chat. ! join in chat to join. We got Biff. All right, cool. We're going to be doing 3 rounds, and this accumulates for 3 rounds. So remember, in this game, once the game starts, you're going to be able to do little commands here. You do ! join, jump, ! zoom, or ! cover, or ! wall to help as well with your survival rate. And it's last muffin or cupcake standing. I'm going to do a last call here. We got enough people. ! join in chat. And if not, we'll just get started. Let's see. Let's let Molly, who's right there, and she's going to go jump on you guys and kill you now. Here we go. Good luck. I gave everyone 5 lives, so.
Nice. Oh, Molly's going for it.
Remember, you can do ! jump, cover, wall.
Oh, we got to type it out.
Yep.
Type out okay.
Let's see who. Okay, we got.
I saw somebody. Yeah, they're trying to figure it out. The shields, nice.
All right. Cover. We got No Fear's got a cover.
Oh,
right. Nice. All right. Biff's out. Let's see who's. Oh, Tao, you're out. No Fear's. Nice shield protect. No Fear. All right. Nice. Oh, Mikey Love Retro is out. Remember, we're doing 2 more rounds. Tao is out. Sanity is out. Ooh. It's down to No Fear and Phantom Cat Punch. Who's it going to be on the first round? It looks like No Fear wins.
Well done.
Well done, No Fear. All right, next round, we're going to town. Remember, everyone, put ! join. We're going to be fighting Donut. ! join in chat. Ooh. Everyone that just played, it would make sense if you played again, because we're going to accumulate 3 rounds here. So do ! join in chat, everyone. All right, great.
All right.
Awesome.
Love to see it. Love to see it.
Let's get everyone that was in the last round because we're doing 3 rounds here. So the winner will get a copy of Muffins on Stream. I think we have everyone that was here in the last round. Am I right, everyone? Yep. I think we're all here. All right, let's start round 2. Let's see who survives. Good luck against Donut. He shoots out donut holes at everybody. Here we go.
You know, now it's making me hungry, Andy. Donut sounds pretty good.
All right. We got people using the commands. Good. Donut, big donut guy. What do you think of the donut?
I like the donut.
It's pretty crazy, huh?
I like how he looks. He looks like he's very upset.
Oh, we got 2 eliminated. It's down to 3 here. Biff Buffington Phantom punches out. Now it's Biff Insanity. Who's it going to be? Biff. Okay.
Oh,
winner is Sanity.
Sanity got it. Nice
points.
job.
Nice job. We had Biff Bufflington. Look at that wonderful face in number 2. And then Phantom Cat Punch. And then our final round against the evil floating Bear Claw King. He's literally a floating Bear Claw. Let's put exclamation point join in chat. Let's do the last round. And remember, we are going to be giving the winner a copy of Muffins on Stream, but it's by accumulated total points. So whoever has the most points accumulated in the last 3 rounds will win. And I think we got everyone that has been in the other rounds available here. All right, cool. We got Biff, we got Tao, we got Mikey Loves Retro, Phantom Cat Punch, Sanity, and No Fear. I think that's everybody, if I'm mistaken. All right, here we go, Patrick. Last round.
All right,
let's see who survives. By royal decree, I declare these muffins.
You say so the winner gets a copy of the game?
Yep.
Cool.
I think someone has a copy already that's in here. But okay, let's see who survives. He's got some evil power here. He's got 3 different moves here. He's going to shoot out these balls, these magical balls. But what you don't want to happen is his lightning. His lightning will take you out pretty bad. Oh, Biff gets hit pretty hard. Just Biff on that one. All right, let's see what happens. Is it going to rain down stuff? Here it comes. Ooh, everyone's surviving pretty well right now. I don't think anyone's been eliminated. All right. And I did shut off.
I see some shields. I see some bubbles.
I did shut off the music by accident, but there is music. Oh, it looks like we got our first eliminated. We got No Fear and Sanity are out. Sorry, guys. Ooh, Phantom Punch. He got you good. We got Biff, Tao, Phantom Cat Punch, and Mikey Loves Retro left. Here comes some balls. Oh, out is Phantom Punch. Oh, he Bear Claw. So winner of this round is Mikey Loves Retro.
Good job, Mikey.
We got Biff Bufflington at second, and Tao of Power. Let's see who wins. Mikey wins. Who already has?
Mikey wins.
I already gave him a copy of the game.
So,
but
should he gift it to someone?
It's up to Mikey. I can give him another code, or I can give the code to Biff Bufflington for second place. Mikey, are you okay with me giving it to Biff since he's in second place? Be happy to give it to Biff. Up to you, Mikey, or I'll give you one to give away as well. All right, cool.
Of course.
Well, thanks so much, guys.
Well done.
Yes, thanks so much for playing Muffins on Stream with us. It's available on the Steam store. It's an easy in-between game, as you saw. The more people you have in chat, the crazier it gets. I really appreciate everyone playing it. Thank you so much for supporting it. And, of course, all you have to do is search Muffins on Stream. It's $2.99. It means a lot because it supports our development for our side-scrolling platformer we want to make, Patrick, on this.
Right.
But before we go, Patrick, tell us a little bit about where you can find the Retro Blast podcast and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to listen to the show, it's very easy. We are on most streaming platforms. So Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Samsung. You can go to the link on our Twitter or go to the retroblastpodcast.com. If you want to stream the episodes there. So there's an easy way to find. There you go. So the episode's there if you want to listen to them. But again, we're on all major streaming platforms, and we're most active on Twitter at RetroblastUS. And that's where all these fine folks are. A lot of these guys that are in here, we interact with as well, and got a great community there. So you can also find me if you want to interact with me personally. I've got a more personal account on Instagram at RetroblastPat. So that's kind of where I'm more so like there. If people want to talk to me about games or whatever, that's where I'm mostly active myself.
Awesome, dude. Thanks so much. Really had a blast. Retro blast with you, sir.
Okay, perfect. I was waiting for that.
I've had a retro blast on your podcast, so please check it out. If you want to hear us even more, we go in depth about Shenmue, but of course he has all these wonderful episodes available.
And I will say, just real quick, if you don't mind,
yeah, I don't mind.
The wonderful, I don't know if Retro Game Brews is still in here, but the Gamers Week podcast.
He probably left because he's so cool.
He's too cool for us. No, but he's great. We've done an episode, but Blue Williams from the Gamers Week podcast, which is the show he's with.
Yep.
We just, in the next few days, the Resident Evil 4 episode will be coming out. So that's the next episode. Ooh. So Blue Williams and I talked about that. So that's just in time for the remake. That'll be coming out. And then Retro Game Brews and I will be doing Castlevania Bloodlines to end season 1, episode 30.
Ooh, I love it, man. And Patrick, really appreciate it. I want to remember everyone. I'm going to put down Patrick's stuff right here in chat just to give it one more look. So please check Pat out.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Also, if you are on VOD, I really appreciate you watching this episode on VOD. If you happen to catch it live, it's just a treat to be with us and talk with us. Patrick, as you can see, it's really fun to have people live interaction with us.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say... one thing before I go, Patrick, I always say this, we only get one shot at this life. So you might as well be nice to people. I'm Andy. That's Patrick from the Retro Blast podcast. This was another episode of Cafe BTW, a gaming morning podcast. We're going to close the shop this Saturday. We will be back next Saturday. I'll look up if we have a guest because I forgot. But that said, have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe. And you can check out all my socials below. Again, thanks again, Pat. We'll see you all
next problem. Take care, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone in chat. Bye. Oh, wait. I'm going to do the close scene. There. See you next time.
There you go. All right.
Bye, everyone. See y'all soon.